All right, everybody. It's the Working Fans Podcast, Comedycast. We got AJ Strange Brew. He's just hanging out over here. Man, they call
Woo!
Dave. And today, I'm going to hit AJ with a few topics. All right.
Like
I'm
a
gonna
like a great comic once said, "Waka waka waka."
one of the great. Who said that?
That was Fozzie the Bear.
Oh, from the Muppets.
Yes.
One of the great comics of all time. Love that guy. Were you a Muppets fan?
I was a fan of the Muppets because you never knew who was going to show up on there.
Mm-hmm.
They would get all kinds of comedians interacting with puppets and that stuff. Now I'm not.
When did you watch the Muppets? How old were you?
Probably like 7.
7, right? And this is what you were thinking at 7. You're like, I really love him. I can't wait to see who's going to show up today.
No, that's actually what I liked at 7. I actually liked the guest stars and
Mhm.
I didn't really like the musicians because they would get like John Denver and stuff like that. But I like the comedians because you would see people like Richard Pryor show up. Don.
I think at
Rickles.
7 I liked it because they were puppets and they made me laugh.
I think by now we know I was a different kind of cat.
I don't even know that like excuse me, that unless you saw that later, you might, because I saw it I think even younger. So
I might have been even younger. To be honest
that's
with
why
you.
I'm wondering. Like, I'm picturing even a younger version of you trying to tell me, like,
My-
Father, I simply love. I can't wait to see if Pryor or who's going to be on tonight.
I should probably tell you my favorite characters on the whole show were the 2 old men.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I would say, for true today, it holds up. But it's very interesting to think at a very young age. I mean, I could buy that one. I'm not going to even bust your ass on that one. It's just sometimes your logic for like a kid doesn't really add up to me. I always find it interesting. Like, at what point did you become an old man?
My father likes to say that I at no point was I actually really a child.
I'd be interested to know. Like, was there like a year or two? Like, as soon as he started talking, it was all game over. So I'm gonna hit you with some names of some comedians, and like 2 of them I know you'll know a lot about. All right. So, and I'm gonna throw a few wild cards at you. All right. So this is called AJ's favorites, but it might be some of AJ's least favorites. Let's find out. All right. Let's start off with an easy one. One guy we already talked about. Tell us some impressions and stories. Fans might have already heard it about one of your favorites. What is that guy's name? I'm blanking out. We did a podcast on him recently.
Don Rickles?
Don Rickles. I was going to say Don Knotts. Yeah, Don Rickles.
Okay, just to be clear, Don Knotts, not one of my favorites.
You know what? Can you tell me some stuff about Don Knotts? What do you think about Don Knotts?
Sure.
Yeah.
Don Knotts was more of the Jerry Lewis style of comedy, more of the physical, silly, not
Did
really.
Don Knotts do stand-up the best you know?
Not the best of my knowledge. To the best of my knowledge, Don Knotts started off on the Andy Griffith Show.
Yes.
He was the deputy on the show. He looked older than Andy, but was considerably younger than Andy Griffith.
He always looked old. Like whenever I saw him, yeah.
Even when he was finally on like Three's Company, I couldn't stand him. I thought he was obnoxious and annoying. I actually liked. I didn't like. What was it? Ralph Furley was his name on the show.
Yeah.
I actually liked the original neighbors that were on there before him, the husband and the wife, the Ropers.
Yeah.
I thought
Stanley and Helen. I was actually a fan of the show. So.
I thought they were much more entertaining. I thought Larry the neighbor was also more entertaining. I didn't like Mr. Furley at all. So Don Knotts not really my style.
Okay. So
however, Don Rickles. Don Rickles, very much my style. Don Rickles to me was the kid in the neighborhood. You know, when you were growing up, how you just bust each other's stones, and that's part of being friends.
Right.
He was that friend that you had that just was a ball buster, but obviously to the next level. And he was never afraid to say anything, wasn't afraid. You can't do comedy and be afraid. If you go up on stage thinking, oh my God, who am I going to insult today? What do I have to worry about? You cannot do comedy. And he that is what he embodies to me.
Hey, side note too. Don't think you're going to start off comedy and get paid a lot of money too, right?
Oh God! if you're starting off comedy because you think you're going to make like Eddie Murphy money, or I guess we could be more current. Any of the top stars out there, even those guys, believe it or not, the reason why they're still on tour constantly, unless you're Jim Gaffigan or somebody like that with the TV specials
Kevin
and stuff of
Hart.
that nature, Kevin Hart,
Yeah.
you're not making that kind of money. It's no different than professional wrestling.
Right.
When you start off, you're hoping for a cup of coffee, a couple drinks, maybe some gas money.
Yeah, I think I've heard wrestlers getting paid like,
Hot
Doritos,
dogs.
hot dogs, handshake, and then like even one of the comedians we had on here, Karine Martinez, there, she
Yeah.
had said they paid her in a beer one night, so that was
And if you're not the headliner on a
right,
cafe show, you're probably not getting paid.
right,
You're just trying to get the stage time. The good thing these days is that there's so much technology that they're able to get tapes and videos of what they're doing, so that they can actually send that out to people who might eventually get them paid. But if you go back even say 15 years ago, when camera phones weren't as abundant as they are now, you didn't have people being able to tape like that. When I wrestled, you weren't able to actually tape the shows like you are now. These kids that are wrestling now, they have their matches on YouTube, and they've had like 3 matches all together. And the whole reason why is because the technology is different.
Yeah. Now, let's get back to this name game here. I'm going to throw you, instead of going to one I know you're going to have a lot of information about, I'm going to throw you a different guy.
Sure.
A guy, I'm not even sure if this guy's done stand-up. I know he's a comedian actor. Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase, to the best of my knowledge, was more of an improv guy.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys who started off with Saturday Night Live and stuff like that, they came from improv troupes. So whether it was the Groundlings or Second City Players or something of that nature, they came from those improv places and worked their way up to Saturday Night Live. A lot of the guys from Saturday Night Live came from SCTV. That's also where Eugene Levy came from. It's where John Candy came from. It's where Gilda Radner, who eventually went to Saturday Night Live, came from.
Were you a fan of Chevy Chase?
I liked Chevy Chase's physical comedy because he was a big guy. So the idea that he was able to actually take the I don't mind physical comedy. I don't like silly physical comedy, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Once again, to bring it back to wrestling, I know we're doing the comedy podcast right now.
That's fine.
Physicality should actually make sense. If you're just doing physicality just to look like a moron, then it doesn't make sense and doesn't tell a story. Physical comedy and humor, when done correctly, and to bring it back to Three's Company, one of the great physical comedians of all time, John Ritter, but he didn't just throw himself around. He made it make sense in the story. And Chevy Chase would do the same thing. He would make it sell. Like if you watch Fletch, I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Fletch movies.
I'm very young.
I recommend going back and watching those. They actually hold up very well. And here's a funny thing about Chevy Chase. As much as we enjoy him, the reason why he didn't do even more was because he's actually considered a dick in the industry.
I know. That's why I actually threw him out there. I literally saw something the other day about how he was not liked by anybody. Like universally very hated. And it's amazing he did as much as he did because he was not liked by. Apparently, he got into a brawl with Bill Murray on SNL one time. He slapped, I want to say it's Rob Riggle, might be the guy's name. I could be wrong about that, but he's a comedian. Kind of a big guy, too. He slapped him in the face. Yeah.
Even the last big show that he was on, you remember Community.
Yeah.
Which
he was saying racist shit to Donald
Glover. Yeah. So I guess Donald Glover's gotten the better out of that, being now part of Star Wars. But I think the problem is like I said, Chevy Chase extremely talented, but he's the complete opposite of Bill Murray. Both of them extremely talented. People universally love Bill Murray, even though he's a Cubs fan, whereas people hate Chevy Chase.
Yeah, Bill Murray actually said on the thing about Chevy Chase, he said, when you make it big in comedy or make it big in Hollywood, you got about 2 years to be a jerk. You can't help yourself. But then you need to figure it out and get it out of your system. He never did. Also, apparently Chevy Chase came from money. Like he's always been like, I forget they said, but like he comes from like royalty almost. And
he wasn't one of the starving comics. When I talk about the independent wrestling and I talk about the comics that are starving coming up, those comics literally are starving and just hoping to be able to get gas enough to be able to drive to the event. That was not something Chevy Chase ever had to go through.
Comic number 3, Stephen Wright.
Stephen Wright, not for everybody. Very dry, very smart. To me, he's I always talk about joke grenades. When you pull the pin and you have to let it go, and this is where the timing comes in. If Stephen Wright just went from joke to joke, there wouldn't be time for his material to set in.
Right.
Because he knows how to space out his jokes and let them marinate, it gives the crowd a second to go, oh shit. And there's almost like I said, it's like a grenade. It goes off like 3 seconds later. If he was to just tell a joke and then go right to the next one, nobody would ever laugh because they wouldn't have time to actually think about what he was saying.
Right.
We went to see Stephen Wright. We saw him at what, Foxwoods?
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that I don't know if you had known much about him beforehand.
I've seen some stuff with him.
But I think even you were pleasantly surprised as to exactly how funny he was in person.
Yeah, no, he's really good. I'm trying to think what I saw him in. Was he in Taxi?
No, that's Christopher Lloyd.
Right.
As Reverend Jim.
I know he was
he was the guy on the couch.
In Half Baked, yeah.
Yeah. That's he plays a Mountie in something. Okay. He's just that dry wit that you don't see coming. And he says just common things that you don't think about on a daily basis. And then when you think about how absurd they are, it becomes much funnier.
Let's go back to comedy actors for a second. Ben Stiller.
Sure. See, I'm not
comedy.
He is. I'm just not sure how funny Ben Stiller is without writers. There's a problem here. And don't get me wrong, it's no different than wrestling. And once again, some people are very good when they're produced and done well. Now, he did start off. I don't know if you're aware of this. He had a show on the original Fox network when they were first coming out where he did almost like a public access channel show. And that to me was when he was at his best because it was very off the cuff, very borderline, and then he became stereotypical. He started doing the same things over and over again.
What's the guy that did Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure that isn't Keanu Reeves?
The one that isn't Keanu Reeves.
Alex Winters, actually.
Yes, right?
Yeah. Didn't he have a show? Maybe you don't remember. I have to look this up then. But Ben Stiller, do you know that to be true? I thought they might have had a sketch comedy show. Okay.
I don't know.
They did a lot of silly humor on there, I want to say.
But once again, I'm also not into that silly humor. Right, I know people love like Something About Mary, and not one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, you didn't like Dumb and Dumber, or did you actually like Dumb and Dumber?
I hate Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, okay, that's funny.
I think that they're literally like Borat. It's playing to the lowest denominator.
Hey, actually, it kind of reminds me. You said though, like good writings. I don't know if that'd be the case with him, but Freddie Prinze Jr. recently commented on. Again, this is wrestling though, but his father was a great comedian.
Freddie Prinze Sr. Now you know he died he died at only 21 years old.
Yeah, I know. Freddie Prinze Jr. like told I was doing an interview with him. He told the best stories, and
he was actually the celebrity roasts.
Oh yeah.
Freddie Prinze, the original one, was actually on the Dean Martin celebrity roasts. I forget who they were roasting, but he was actually very funny on the show. Actually,
back up just for 1 second before I tell the story. Chevy Chase, they did a roast with him on, I think it was maybe Comedy Central. And apparently, because he was so well disliked, everything was so personal and so heated and people had agendas that Comedy Central was never airing the roast again. It's not allowed to air.
Yeah, so. The problem is when people do roasts are supposed to be a tribute to someone. You're supposed to be saying things to someone you adore.
Right.
That you wouldn't normally say to them.
Right.
When you have somebody who's universally hated, and you just have people coming up there, it becomes more of a attack.
Yeah. So the Freddie Prinze Jr. Thing was basically, he said though, when he was at WWE, the question he was asked was, are there writers who made people bad? And he said, well, yes. and there's right people make people good. He said, but I will tell you this. He said there were some people that were so good you couldn't write bad for them. He's like, I saw some people get handed some bad written shit, and he said they would turn it gold every time. So
Absolutely.
I would imagine, there's probably comedy actors and stuff like that are in the same boat.
So here's the thing. Some people just have a natural charisma.
Mm-hmm.
How many things has The Rock done that are just god awful and people still actually like it because of how charismatic he is?
Yeah, they love that guy.
Even some of the stuff that he did in wrestling, you look back at it, and if you had tried to put somebody else doing the same thing, some of the skits with like him and Mick Foley, if you had put two other people that weren't charismatic in there, it would have been the drizzling shits. And these two just are so charismatic as individuals that it made the show.
Let's end on a high note. Who is your least favorite comic? Let's go out on a bang.
let's be fair here. Comedy, we've talked about this before, and we use the word hate a lot. Yeah, we use the word hate a lot. We oh my God, I hate this, I hate that.
I said least favorite, that's all.
No, I know, but I want to
make sure. Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure that I'm fair here. Anybody who takes the time to go up on stage has got a tremendous amount of guts and a tremendous amount of perseverance. And it's no different than wrestling in the fact that it's an art form. And what is art to me might not be art to you, might not be art to producer Joe, might not be art to somebody in Renegade Wrestling.
Randy Oscar.
Exactly. It's all subjective. So that being said, my least favorite comic right now, and the one who you just couldn't pay me enough to go to a show. And this is going to bring it back around to the Muppets when it comes to the puppets. I cannot stand Jeff Dunham. I think Jeff Dunham is... I don't know at what point in your life you decide to stick your hand up a sock's ass and talk to it, and how that becomes funny to you. But for some reason, there's a whole group of people out there that think that this is the funniest shit on the planet.
I'm going back to our Comedycast list in the initial episode, and I swear there's going to be a few people who had Jeff Dunham on there.
There always are. There always are. There are people that absolutely love Jeff Dunham. And like I said, I'm not saying that it's not comedy for other people. Right. Absolutely it is. You just are a moron if you find that funny.
Thanks for listening to the Working Fans Comedy Cast. All right, I think that's it, folks. I think that's enough for this week. We'll have another 531 coming later, so enjoy the show.